All right, so yeah, we're going deep today, like literally deep, into the world of this creature that's totally changing what we thought we knew about life in the deep sea. We're talking nudibranches, those naked snails.
Yeah,
But this one's been found thriving in an environment that we thought they couldn't exist in.
it's called Bathydevius caudactylus. And this 2024 scientific paper, it details how it's perfectly adapted to living thousands of meters below the surface in the abyssal depths where there's no sunlight.
Wow, no sunlight. So it's fascinating how life finds a way to not just exist, but really thrive in such a harsh environment. So to kick things off, how do we even picture this deep sea snail?
Okay, so picture this. A creature with a tripartite body. It has a bell-shaped oral hood, a central body where its organs are, and a flat tail fringed with finger-like projections called dactyls.
Dactyls. Okay, so it's already breaking the mold with those. Most snails I know kind of stick to a more streamlined design, so what's the thought behind these extra appendages?
Well, that's a mystery that's still unfolding. Scientists are exploring a few theories. But what we do know is that the whole body is incredibly transparent and gelatinous, which lets it blend right into the darkness of the deep sea. And what's interesting is that its vibrant internal organs like a red stomach, an orange-brown digestive gland, and white gonads in mature individuals are actually visible through its see-through form.
So it's like a living X-ray just floating through the abyss. Is it a tiny creature or something more substantial?
Well, they've been found to range from 56 to 145 millimeters. So picture like a lime to a small banana. Not exactly giant squid size, but considering the average deep-sea dweller, it's quite large.
That's definitely bigger than I expected for a deep-sea snail. Now, does it move in that classic slow snail fashion? Or does it have some surprises up its, well, non-existent sleeve?
Well, it does move slowly. It uses graceful, full-body undulations to swim. But it's got a trick up its bell-shaped hood. It can rapidly close it, creating a medusoid pulse.
A medusoid pulse? What's that? Like some kind of turbo boost for escaping danger?
Exactly. By contracting muscles around its hood, it forces water out, creating a jet propulsion effect, and that propels it backward. It's like a snail with its own escape jet.
This is amazing. I'm picturing this slow, graceful dance through the water, punctuated by these sudden bursts of speed. But the deep sea isn't exactly a gourmet buffet, so what keeps this little escape artist fueled?
Well, this is where it gets even more interesting. Bathydevius has a taste for crustaceans, specifically a type of mysid shrimp called Boromysis californica.
Shrimp. But those are quick little critters. I'm having trouble imagining this gelatinous snail chasing down speedy shrimp in pitch black.
Yeah, that's the puzzle scientists are trying to solve. They haven't actually witnessed the feeding process, but they suspect that the large hood might play a role in trapping those agile shrimps.
So we've got a transparent, potentially shrimp-eating snail with a jetpack. What other adaptations allow it to thrive in the deep sea? A place that's known for its scarcity of resources.
Well, one key adaptation is its incredibly slow metabolism, similar to jellyfish. This means it can survive on infrequent meals, essential in an environment where food can be hard to come by. And what's really interesting is that its prey, those mysid shrimp, have metabolic rates 3 orders of magnitude higher.
Oh, wow, that's fascinating. It's like Bathydevius is playing the long game, perfectly adapted to this low-energy lifestyle, while its prey are zipping around, burning energy at a much faster rate. It's making me rethink everything I thought I knew about life in the deep sea.
Yeah, it really challenges our assumptions, and there's still so much to uncover, especially when it comes to those dactyls on its tail.
Yes, those dactyls. We can't leave them hanging. So what are the leading theories about their function?
Okay, well, we could rule out sensory organs, or anything related to digestion or respiration. Scientists haven't found any connections there.
So no sniffing out snacks or helping it breathe. What's left?
2 main possibilities. They might be a defense mechanism, detaching to distract predators, similar to a lizard losing its tail. Or, this is where it gets really intriguing, they could act as lures to attract prey. And this theory is especially interesting given that Bathydevius has another trick up its, hood. Bioluminescence.
Wait, hold on. A glowing deep-sea snail-hunting shrimp with a jetpack. This is getting wilder by the minute. I need all the details.
So both in the wild and in the lab, Bathydevius has been observed emitting this blue glow, seemingly emanating from small granules within its hood, and you guessed it, those dactyls. They even observed a glowing dactyl detaching and drifting away. which seems to support the lure or defense theories.
That's incredible. We're talking about a creature that's shattering our perceptions of deep sea life. It's transparent, has a jet propulsion system, and might be using bioluminescent lures to attract its prey. What else could possibly surprise us about this remarkable nudibranch? So let's talk about this bioluminescence a bit more. It's not exactly a common trait among snails, is it?
Not really, no. Most snails kind of stick to the shadows. But what makes Bathydevius so remarkable is that it represents the third independent evolution of bioluminescence within nudibranch.
Wow, the third?
So it seems like glowing in the dark. It must offer a pretty big advantage down in the deep sea, even if it's evolved through different pathways.
It makes you wonder, why go through all that evolutionary trouble to develop this ability? What's the benefit for a deep sea nudibranch to light up?
It's probably a multi-purpose tool. Think about it. In the deep sea's perpetual darkness, a sudden burst of light could startle predators, giving Bathydevius a chance to escape. Or, if those dactyls are actually lures, imagine them twinkling like tiny stars, attracting those unsuspecting shrimp right into its waiting hood.
So it's like built-in defense and a lure all in one. It's amazing how these adaptations all work together. The transparency for camouflage, the slow metabolism for energy conservation, and now the bioluminescence for both defense and maybe even hunting. It's almost like Bathydevius was made for the deep sea.
It really is. And to think, this is just one discovery. You mentioned that Bathydevius is the first bathypelagic nudibranch ever identified. What does that say about our understanding of the deep sea?
For me, it just shows how much we still don't know about this vast and mysterious environment. Here we have this creature that's totally defying what we thought about where nudibranches could live and thrive. It makes you wonder what else we're missing down there.
Exactly. It really underscores the need for continued exploration and research. And, with each new discovery, our understanding of how life on Earth is all connected, it just grows deeper. Speaking of which, there was this detail in the paper, a Bathydevius potentially spawning on the seafloor. That I found pretty interesting.
Wait, seafloor spawning? That seems a little counterintuitive for an animal that's so well adapted to living in the water column.
I know, right? It really challenges our assumptions. Researchers observed two individuals down on the seafloor, attaching them with an expanded foot, and both had these expanded genital pores, suggesting they were laying ribbons of eggs. One of them even had two tails.
Two tails. This nudibranch just keeps getting stranger. Did they see any eggs or baby Bathydevius?
Yes, they did. In the lab, one of the ripe specimens laid a ribbon of eggs. That eventually hatched into these tiny, free-swimming larvae.
That's incredible. We see them gracefully swimming in the water column, maybe even using their bioluminescence to hunt and defend themselves. And then they go down to the seafloor to reproduce. What an amazing life cycle.
It really is. And the fact that they're found both in the water column and on the seafloor, it's fascinating. Does this suggest a link to shallower water ancestors? What are the challenges of reproduction in such a harsh environment? So many questions.
Yeah, it's like each discovery opens up a whole new set of questions, leading us further down the rabbit hole of deep-sea mysteries. Speaking of mysteries, we've been talking about how Bathydevius seems perfectly adapted to its environment. But are there any threats to its survival?
That's a really good question, especially with all the talk about deep-sea mining going on. While we don't know the full extent of Bathydevius's range, or the specific areas where it reproduces, any disturbance to the seafloor could have unforeseen consequences.
It's true. We need to proceed with caution. When it comes to deep-sea exploration and resource extraction, we can't protect what we don't understand. And discoveries like this just highlight how important ongoing research and conservation efforts are.
Absolutely. Every new species we discover adds to the richness and complexity of our planet. And it's our responsibility to make sure they survive. But it's not all doom and gloom. There's a really cool connection to another nudibranch that lives in a completely different world.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. Tell me more about this Bathydevius relative.
So remember we were talking about Bathydevius's unusual diet of crustaceans?
Yeah.
Well, there's this other nudibranch called Melibeleonina, also known as the lion nudibranch, which lives in shallow waters, and it also eats crustaceans. It also has this large expandable hood, just like Bathydevius, and it lacks the typical radula, that rasping tongue-like structure that a lot of snails use for feeding.
So a shallow water cousin with a similar taste for crustaceans, are they closely related?
That's the really interesting part. Despite these physical and behavioral similarities, genetic analysis suggests that Bathydevius and Melibeleonina aren't actually closely related. This is a great example of convergent evolution, where unrelated species develop similar traits because they're living in similar environments. and face similar challenges.
Wow, that's amazing. So Bathydevius and the lion nudibranch, they both evolved these large hoods and crustacean catching skills independently because that's what works best in their own worlds.
Exactly. It just goes to show how powerful natural selection is. And the ingenuity of evolution. It makes you wonder what other examples of convergent evolution might be hidden down there. What other seemingly unrelated species could be connected by these fascinating evolutionary echoes?
It's a question that'll definitely fuel more exploration and discovery. Speaking of exploration, what's next for Bathydevius research? What are the big questions scientists are hoping to answer?
Well, one of the biggest mysteries still remains. How does Bathydevius actually capture those shrimp? Direct observations of the feeding process will be so valuable. We also need to look more into the implications of its seafloor spawning. Does this behavior vary across its range? How do the larvae get from the seafloor to the water column?
So many questions, each one leading us deeper into the fascinating world of this deep-sea snail. What can our listeners do to learn more about Bathydevius and the deep sea?
I definitely recommend searching for videos of Bathydevius, especially its bioluminescent display. It's really mesmerizing to watch.
Absolutely. We'll be sure to include some links in the show notes. And beyond that, I think it's important to stay informed about the research and conservation efforts related to the deep sea, support organizations that are protecting these ecosystems, and advocate for responsible policies that ensure our oceans stay healthy.
Couldn't agree more. It's about recognizing that what we do has consequences, and that even the deep sea is connected to our lives.
Well said. So, as we wrap up our deep dive into the world of Bathydevius, what's one final thought-provoking takeaway for our listeners?
I think that's a really important point. The deep sea is often seen as this far-off and alien place, but it's connected to all of us.
Right.
What happens down there affects the health of the entire ocean, and in turn, the health of our planet.
That's so true. And it makes me think back to something we talked about earlier, about how Bathydevius changes our understanding of where nudibranchs can live.
Yeah, it's a real game changer.
We usually picture them in shallow, colorful coral reefs, not the dark depths of the ocean.
Right, exactly. And it makes you wonder, what other assumptions do we have that might need to be reevaluated? Maybe there are whole groups of creatures that we think are restricted to certain environments, but they're actually out there, adapting and thriving in ways we never imagined.
It's humbling and exciting at the same time. Like we're always pushing the limits of what we know about life on Earth.
It really is. And that's what makes exploring the deep sea so fascinating. It reminds us that there's still so much to learn, so many mysteries to uncover.
Absolutely. So to our listeners who are now hopefully as fascinated by Bathydevius as we are, what's the best way to learn more about this world?
Well, besides the links we'll share in the show notes, I recommend checking out some videos of Bathydevius, especially the ones showing its bioluminescence. Seeing it move through the water like that, it's just mesmerizing.
It's like a living work of art. And beyond that, I think it's really important to stay informed about the research and conservation work happening around the deep sea. Support those organizations who are working to protect these ecosystems, and advocate for policies that will keep our oceans healthy.
I agree. It's about understanding that our actions have consequences, and that even the deep sea is connected to us.
Well said. So as we wrap up our deep dive into the world of Bathydevius, let's remember that sense of wonder, that thirst for knowledge, and that commitment to protecting the amazing diversity of life on our planet. After all, who knows what other secrets are waiting to be discovered in the depths? Maybe a glowing snail that communicates with its mind, or a bioluminescent squid that can shapeshift. Okay, maybe I'm getting carried away, but the possibilities are really endless.
That's the beauty of it. The deep sea is a place of infinite possibilities. It's a reminder that our planet is still full of surprises, and there's always more to learn and more to be amazed by.
That's a great way to put it. So to all our listeners out there, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep that sense of wonder alive. Until next time.